And so now that we know, if you didn't know, and looking at the new stadium plan, best land use, valuable land, let's talk about, and also that how raw land being transformed into, at the minimum, mixed income neighborhoods, as well as having an idea about mixed income neighborhoods, its origin, purpose, and function to some degree. Let's actually talk about, what are some of the options when it comes to best land use? Like, what does that look like? And so again, we're always doing research. We're always not taking things at face value. I was able to come across an article discussing land information and what type of land is a good investment in 2022, or just, let's say, modern times. And what you see here are just different snippets from the article. I'm going to see if I can find the source. Forgive my ignorance on that if I don't have it. But ultimately, as you can see, ironically, and especially when we're talking about those advocating to keep farmland, especially in those rural areas that are growing quickly due to larger municipal economic growth, we can see here that the number one good investment, especially, and we're talking not only about urban core development, but also just good information for those that want to purchase land or purchase property. What are some of the best investments? As we see here, number one is farmland. So we can see why those farmers or those advocating for farmland are saying, hey, let's keep the farmland and focus on your real estate development, urban core development in a concentrated area, so we can keep the farmland to ensure that we're producing assets and producing revenue and ensuring that the city or the county is not going into debt in the long term. And next thing you know, you're producing revenue to cover your debt and at best breaking even. So we see number one, farmland. Just some quick insight: with the agricultural market increasing, investing in farmland has emerged as a profitable opportunity. And one thing I want to shout out 4-H. If you're not familiar with 4-H, I believe it's more of an agricultural based nonprofit organization, a government agency through the nonprofit through the University of Tennessee Extension Program, where 4-H is a part of the UT University of Tennessee Extension Program, where this organization is advocating for agribusiness, agricultural awareness. And I want to say I was at a recent competition for fourth and fifth graders in a rural county, and a young lady in fifth grade did an excellent presentation on farmers. Now, pretty much there's only 2% of farmers now, I'm not speaking on ignorance, in the United States of America, and just the challenges and the sacrifices that farmers have to go through in order to produce food that go into your traditional grocery store for American residents. And so I, for one, am a huge advocate of farmland, of farmers, and respectfully, I want to see more diverse and urban-based residents getting and engaging in farmland and farming. And so as we see here, what type of land is a good investment? Number one is farmland. And so I want to make sure that we're always advocating for the farmland. Number two, we see subdivision development. This involves purchasing a large piece of land, usually farmland, worst case scenario, and then subdividing it for the purpose of building multiple houses. And I want to shout out a lot of the different auctions companies out there. A lot of them slip my mind, but I do work closely with them. And I've seen generational properties or land that was owned by several generations actually be sold, but they're sold in plots, if you will. Or they, again, as you see here, they subdivide the land, and they actually can make more money that way. And so, as you can see here, this involves purchasing a large piece of land and then subdividing it for the purpose of building multiple houses. Subdivisions development is an effective strategy to add value to your land. More parcel, that's the word I'm looking for, parcels of land mean more profits. When you divide land into smaller pieces, you can sell it to different buyers and keep some for yourself. And so, again, we're talking about best land use, the different types of land. So we have already established number one, farmland, number two, subdivisions. I don't know if these two options right now will be a good fit for Metro Nashville getting that valuable land back, because you're on the riverfront, you're in the middle of the downtown corridor. It's kind of hard to see farmland, and respectfully, you're in the downtown corridor where the growth of building residential houses or properties usually is going up vertically into your condos, apartments. So I don't really see a subdivision development in the space where that metro land is now is housed and right next to the stadium. So let's look at number three, commercial development. So commercial development. I would almost assume then, as we go into number three, that and I think of subdivisions, I'm thinking of tract homes and neighborhoods, but I could be speaking out of ignorance. Number three, commercial developments. Another great land investment option is to convert raw land into warehouse, storage facility, factory, mechanic shop, or shopping complex. Likewise, you can develop your raw land into an array of things to generate multiple sources of income. However, make sure to gauge the potential of commercial land based on your preferred development work. So that's something to definitely think about. And your fourth land investment, as far as what's a good investment, is recreation. Using raw land for recreational purposes comes with a range of personal and financial benefits. It's an affordably priced long-term investment. When you invest in recreational land, you get the opportunity to earn income as well as use land for entertainment purposes. And that's where I think that green space, if we can go back to the new stadium plan, that green space, as we're looking at what Metro Nashville plans to transform that land into, which is of course mixed income neighborhoods. So I'm assuming that's part of the subdivision, number two, but indirectly I'm assuming that's also number three with commercial developments. Because I know a lot of mixed income neighborhoods, they have housing at the top, at least 4, 5 stories, at least 3 stories, we'll say that, of residential, maybe even 2, at least 2 stories of residential housing. And at the bottom, you have the commercial, which is like your retail space. So I see that. But then if you notice here, you have parks and green space. And so moving back into your top 4, as far as types of land that are good investments, that's where your recreation comes in. See if I can find that source in regards to. I'll put the link in the video as far as that source. But here's another kicker: the 5, and this is from multifamilyexecutive.com. So I wanted to throw in, okay, well, what does mixed income neighborhoods really look like? And there was an article that popped up under multifamilyexecutive.com, multifamilyexecutive.com. My apologies. 5 tips for marketing and managing a mixed income community. I wanted to highlight some of these tips. I didn't highlight all 5, but I highlighted a few. Number 1, for those that are community residents, keep in mind when it comes to the mixed income communities and neighborhoods, the number one tip to keep in mind is to move the market rate residents in first. And I believe we may have talked about it earlier in the video or the series regarding when you go from public housing sites, respectfully, as they were traditionally developed for working families, and then respectfully, they kind of transformed into based on income housing. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but based on that result of the based on income housing, I have noticed, I'm not saying that it's facts, but some public housing that's based on income have turned into more of a, respectfully, higher crime, higher poverty situation. And then the schools around that public housing site, from my experience, end up being priority or failing schools. Priority schools are not failing, but they're close to it. And of course, you have your failing schools. And right now, respectfully, I believe there's the 3rd grade law. I'm not speaking out of ignorance, in the state of Tennessee that's either passed or being pushed to be passed. The 3rd grade law, basically meaning if you don't have a certain test score or academic results by the time you graduate 3rd grade, you are not automatically graduated or advancing to the 4th grade. Because I believe right now the state of Tennessee is working to improve their academia results for 3rd graders as Tennessee does not like the numbers or the grade statistics that third graders are producing, and they want to work to put a stop to that. So there's a third grade law. See if I can throw that link in there for more information, so I'm not speaking out of ignorance. But again, that's the third grade laws across the state of Tennessee. But you can imagine, respectfully, when you are in a more higher crime, higher poverty area, how the students are more so in a mindset of surviving and finding food to eat and things of that nature, than focused on thriving and focusing on their education. So you can kind of see how, higher, more affluent income neighborhoods have better grades and statistical academic results compared to, respectfully, your more poverty areas. And so I say all to say that, bringing it back, when you're going in from a public housing site into a mixed income community, number one, you're going to move in your market rate residents first. Mixed income properties require a careful approach to the timing of moving in the range of residents that will occupy the units. Moving in market rate occupants first tend to be most moving in market rate occupants first tends to be the most successful strategy because it helps establish the property's tone. And what I mean by that, or what that means, I'm assuming, is when you have people coming in that are paying market rate, the ones that come in early, they may have some type of discount or incentive. They may not. I'm just saying, I would assume they may have. But then for those that are now coming in on the second phase that are willing to pay market rate, they can see that, okay, it makes sense for me to rent or lease here because those that are already here are already paying market rate. And traditionally, you get what you pay for. So therefore, it's going to be safe for my family and I to move in as we're looking to live, work, and play in this area. And so with that being said, if you're a community organizer or activist, you definitely want, that's why I said you want to make a change in your community. You don't always have to be a elected official or running for office. You can be a community service advocate and get out there and pick up trash. Donate your time and talent to schools, and especially the men. The men, there needs to be more male presence in schools, especially more urban, diverse schools, so that students can have every opportunity and resource to grow in their education. And so those are some of the, and I say pick up trash because psychologically, and I got to see if I can find those stats, psychologically speaking, it's been, I want to shout out Recycle Reinvest in South Nashville, led by Jaffe Judah. Excellent story of how he grew up and had to go through some challenges and decided to take, his passion, his skills, start a nonprofit with several other great community leaders in the Nashville area to just focus on picking up trash. And now this organization has grown to be a true pillar and influence in the Nashville community. And they were able to pull up statistics showing that picking up trash and keeping your neighborhood clean has psychological advantages for the local residents to be the best they can be. And so that's something that you can do, just pick up trash. And more importantly, don't throw trash on the floor, put it in the trash can. And so that's something simple that you can do, as well as donate your time and talent. And if I hadn't mentioned them before, shouting out Pencil. They're based in Nashville, once known as Pencil Foundation, I believe, but I believe they're just called Pencil now. And they are a nonprofit organization that serves as a liaison between the corporate business world and Metro Nashville Public Schools. And they focus on connecting with business professionals to donate their time and talent to Metro Nashville Public School students so that the students can have every opportunity to learn and grow. And I've had a chance to participate and be an advocate for Pencil, had a chance to serve and serve as a principal for a day and shadow a principal. I want to shout out Principal Bruce Jackson at East Magnet Middle School, a international baccalaureate curriculum-based school. That's a magnet school, meaning that the student is not necessarily a traditional public school, and so the requirements of students having to be there is not as stringent and necessary compared to going to a traditional public school where you live in this area, so you can go to this school. But with the magnet school, it's kind of your choice. And you have to kind of pretty much keep up a certain standard in order to remain in the school. And I believe, I'm not speaking out of ignorance and out of all due respect, East Magnet Middle School was a priority school and is now one of the top schools, magnet school or not, middle schools in the city. And of course, they have a very, very high profile, very sharp athletic department that produces champions in every sport almost every year that end up doing great things in high school and going on to play college sports. And so bringing that back to Pencil, again, these are different ways that you can donate your time and talent by either picking up trash, donating your time and talent to priority schools. But the bottom line is bringing it back to focusing on moving in the market rate residents first. Those are what market rate residents want to look at. Is the area safe? Is the area clean? Is the school system close to where I'm going to live, up to par to be able to provide good education to my family and to my children? And at the same time, with my experience, I've had a chance to serve in the urban core development space and help with the transition of a developer purchasing at least 100 residential properties in a more lower income, higher crime area, and transform those properties, revitalize those properties. Some say gentrify those properties into more of a market rate lease rental property opportunity. And it was funny because as I was helping to manage that transition, I'll never forget there were some residents or some possible prospective renters that when they saw the rent amount and they saw the renovated property, which was up to par, it was the best of the best as far as the renovation. But when they saw the neighborhood that was still developing and transforming from more of a lower income, higher poverty, higher crime area into a more market standard neighborhood, the neighborhood respectfully did not match the renovated property. And so the price that was being asked, I'll never forget one prospective renter, and I'm just going to keep it real as far as what they said. They said for this amount, they love the property, but for the rent amount, they said for this rent amount, I better get some whites and lights is what I was told. And I think that was so, I'll never forget that because you got to have emotional intelligence, first of all. So I'll see if I can leave the link to my free 5-step checklist on how to build and manage working relationships from scratch, as well as my free 35-minute webinar on the actual steps to build working relationships from scratch from your business for your business needs. So, for example, like just you decide to get out the bed today and say, "Hey, I want to build a network. How do I do that from scratch?" The checklist and the webinar are free ways for you to do that. And in that webinar, it deals with emotional intelligence to some degree. And so when the prospective tenant said, I better have some whites and lights for this price, I didn't take it to heart, but I took it at, hey, these are things that people are looking at. And so, for example, taking that and looking at number one, move the market rate residents in first to establish the property's tone. That's because those market rate residents want to see safety, they want to see sustainability, and they want to see a strong educational institution at the minimum. And so moving on, I didn't do tip number 2, but I did tip number 3. And ironically, tip number 3, link with local schools. Creating linkages with a nearby school has multiple benefits. It stands out as an amenity for market rate residents while offering a valuable resource for low-income households with children. And that's why I want to advocate as an advocate of the community, as an advocate of the social side of social economics, and social being the well-being, that if you live in a low-income community, I have to, all of us have to do our part to give back and serve that community to be able to provide not only for the elders and the children, but for the young adults and the working adults, and to change the tone and the culture of that area. Number 4, be prepared with strong public relations. It's important to present the property as a market rate community it's important to present the property as a market rate community with a seamless, affordable component, ensuring the property is perceived as market rate creates a competitive edge for attracting and retaining tenants. I'm going to read that sentence again. Ensuring that the property is perceived as market rate creates a competitive edge for attracting and retaining tenants. A lot of tenants in a lower income area are attracted because it's based on income. And so a lot of times they don't want to move into a poverty area, but they have no choice because it's based on income. So if a market rate developer is attracting tenants, they got to make sure that it's attractive to a market rate resident, which is, okay, I'm going to pay the fee, but I want to make sure I'm safe and that the education is around me. And number 5, establish resident involvement. Properties often have a tenant-based group that can be an important resource for communication between management and residents. Fostering participation from all residents encourages interaction about common interests and strengthens community ties. And I want to throw this in real quick back to in Nashville areas, Metro Development Housing Agency. I really do feel that the MDHA does a great job with their residential associations for each of their housing sites. I've had a chance to meet with a lot of the presidents of the residential associations, the social workers representing MDHA, and serve as the liaison between the MDHA corporate office and the residential associations. And that's why number 5 is so important in regards to residential involvement, because no matter low income, high income, you're still going to require residential involvement. And I want to throw those things out as to when it comes to mixed income neighborhoods, you're looking at, as we see here, market rate tenants. You're looking at sharp schools. You're looking at good public relations for that market rate property to attract and retain tenants. And you're also looking at residents being involved in the property affairs to make sure that everything's going smooth. And again, I want to shout out my firm, sales and marketing firm, Hylton Elite Marketing Agency. If you need that community engagement, outsourcing, or training during this urban core development process, either during the part of attracting, retaining residents, to the part of connecting with the local schools to make sure that process is going smooth, of course, your public relations image, or even down to your residential association. These are all forms of community engagement.